All right. It is streaming, so hopefully you should see it here in a second. And just let me know how the audio sounds. This will be our loading screen. You see it? How's the audio sound? Well, I hear rustling, so that's good.
Yeah, that sounds pretty good.
Alright. Alright, is there anybody else on there except for you?
It says 3 watching.
3 watching, okay. Well then let's get this show on the road.
Me, though.
Okay, hello YouTube. Welcome to Madness Cast Part 2. And I am your lovely host for the evening, one of them. My name is Try Ketchum. I'm Ash Ketchum's older, lesser-known brother. I didn't go, outside of Pilot Town, do some fancy Pokemon hunting. So I program for a living, and I've been lucky enough to be able to start these casts with my lovely wife, Emmy Chu, and we are going to be covering kind of rebuilding our website using Stencil and making a PWA. We're also going to be using Ionic components. And if you didn't get to catch the last Madness cast that we did, as usual, links in the description. And feel free to jump over there and watch that, or stay tuned here. If you're already semi-familiar with web development and with Stencil or web components, or any of that really, if you're just semi-familiar, then this should be pretty much on par with everything that you know. Again, the purpose of these casts are to kind of let us show you the raw process of working on an app or a website, and not so much the rehearsed stuff that you usually get on YouTube. We thought it would be kind of cool to kind of work on some of our projects that we've been putting off for a really long time, our website being a huge one that's been just put on the back burner for like 2 years now. And so we really wanted to kind of open this process up, let you guys come in, hopefully ask some questions and stuff like that. Emily will be running the live chat. So whenever she gets back in here, she'll be running the live chat. So she'll try to pick out your questions and let me know when there's something that I need to address. I'll just give a quick hello just to let everybody know that I am here indeed. And with that being said, again, I have to start out with the awesome advertisements. Again, Madness Labs, small development shop here in St. Louis. We're doing these casts just as an extension of our regular work. We don't hope to make money off these, or I guess we hope to make money off them, but this is not where we make our mainstay. We make apps and websites and management tools for companies here in St. Louis. And we ended up teaching a little bit last year, a class up here in St. Louis for the underprivileged youth. And we wanted to then kind of scale that up and bring that to a more broad level, because there's a huge gap for these STEM careers, and it's just a really great time to pick up programming. So if you are new to programming, then now is the time to learn this stuff, because there's been a lot of paradigm shifts here that are really going to help change the game. There's Emmy Chu. She's ready. She's ready to field your questions behind me and snipe definitions like she did last cast. So cool. So again, if this is helpful to you at all, or you'd like to help us scale up, maybe get a webcam that doesn't lag a second behind with the audio, then head on over to our Patreon and donate. And again, just like last time, if you sign up today and donate more than $10, we'll send you a free t-shirt, a branded Madness Labs t-shirt. And if you donate over $50, we will actually give you some custom branded merchandise. Maybe you want a nice Pokeball on the back of your shirt, or on the front of your shirt, or wherever. It's your shirt. So okay, that being said, I'm going to jump right into it. Let's see, 3. So here you can see our current website. It is not that great. We have been rocking this winter theme for, goodness, the better part of 2 years now. And we want to redo this. We want to kind of rebuild this thing And with Stencil coming out at, what was it, like the end of last year, we really saw that as an opportune time to cut all the excuses and to get right into it. So again, if you haven't watched the last cast, it's up on YouTube. Visit our channel. Let's see, it's this guy. So feel free to jump on over to YouTube/MadnessLabs. Subscribe so that you can get more of these videos. We have an entire playlist already up on Stencil. So if you want to kind of get the synopsis of what Stencil is, how it's important, and then kind of how we're utilizing it here in Madness Labs, feel free to jump on over there. Please subscribe. YouTube just changed their monetization model. We were literally a day from being monetized, and then they changed everything, and now we're like right back at the beginning of everything. So please subscribe and help us out here as we kind of try to scale up these learning resources and make these things, because again, we want to keep these things free. Even our Skillshare course, we're trying to get funded on Patreon. We want to keep these things free and open to get as many people able to adopt these things, because we've been there. We've worked regular careers, and there's a lot to be said about development and how they're better quality jobs, and there's just such a need for this kind of talent. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and pop up the project here. So last time we went ahead and scaled up a basic website with, let me mute myself here. Oh no. Okay. So we went ahead and scaled up a basic solution. We ended up getting a apps page together, and then we actually scaled another component for app card that actually had the list of apps that we've actually done here in the company. So it's much like we have on today's website. We go into apps, and there's a list of apps. So we went ahead and scaled up a component for that. And again, if you're new to this, go to our first video or go to our Getting Started with Stencil video in our Stencil playlist and watch it real quick, and then jump back here because again, we're going to be kind of just going on the fly here. So it's not like there's like a real structure to this whole thing. It's madness. So cool. We're inside of the project now. So to start your Stencil app, you just do npm start, and that should run a development build and then pop it open in the browser here. And I will be dancing in the Pokedex on the bottom right whenever I'm waiting for stuff to load. All right. All right, sweet. So now you can see here we've got the generic Ionic PWA toolkit with our thing here. And if I go to /apps, we get our apps page, and here you can see our app cards. All of this we set up last time. If I jump into my app card, you can see that each card is an Ion card, as Ion grid, Ion row. So if you're using Ionic 2, 3, 4, well, I guess 4 is not out yet, but 2 or 3, then you're probably already used to this kind of syntax here, like them using web components or custom elements in order to make different UI elements. And that's what we're actually using inside of this project. We've got Ionic Core, which is the kind of new way that they're kind of working Ionic, is they're going to build the UI components as web components, and that way you can kind of load them into your desired framework. So as they've said, Stencil is not a framework. It is something that completely compiles out. It's just an assistive tool to help you make making web components easier. And it does a spectacular job. There was actually just a tweet that we reshared out the other day that shows the comparison between writing a vanilla web component versus writing a React component versus Angular versus Stencil. And you can see that Stencil and Angular are very, very close, very similar. Both are very minimal as far as the amount of coding, but it takes a lot of the repetitive work and a lot of the redundancy of writing some of these vanilla web components. So excellent job for those guys over at Ionic. So today I wanted to have a little bit more structure. So again, these things are completely unscripted, as most of our videos are, because we're just so professional here. So this was completely unscripted, but I wanted to have like kind of more of an end goal, because last time it was really easy. We were just scaling up the base structure, explaining about what props are, what state is, what the render function does, all that kind of stuff. So easy peasy. We got that up and running, but now I wanted to have more of an end goal so that everyone could kind of jump on board with what we're really going for. So Emily was nice enough to take a little bit of time out of her busy schedule this week, and she threw together a design here in Adobe XD. And if you haven't heard of Adobe XD, let me get this ugly thing off the screen here. If you haven't heard of Adobe XD, it's their experience design. It's much like Sketch, but we adopted it in beta as well. And basically it is a UI UX tool. It's for making prototypes, and it does it really well. I came from a background of using Fireworks, and it was really easy to pick up Adobe XD and run and start to make prototypes and do stuff like that. And Emily had been beating me over the head for years to get into UI UX, because I would always shoot from the hip. We'd draw some rough sketches on a piece of paper or a whiteboard, and then we'd instantly implement from that. And it usually dragged out. We usually went over budget, and everyone walked away unhappy. But luckily, when XD came out, we saw a cross-platform solution that we could actually go and really work together in order to make good elaborate prototypes and then know exactly what we're going to implement, show these to our clients. It's been super helpful, and Emily kind of picked up that tool and just ran with it, and we've been aces ever since. So she was nice enough to make an XD prototype for the homepage. We wanted to really kind of stick to a little bit of what we had. We have kind of the little orbs on our homepage here that have the different code design, but each one of these is not clickable, and they're really kind of just marketing wise. Like, we wanted to focus more on content is king. We want people to click these links, so all this text and everything comes secondary. We want to focus more on a full screen media type look. So here in the background you can see this is actually one of our newest WordPress posts. So we're probably gonna have the newest WordPress post, whatever featured image from WordPress, it's gonna load into the background, and then we have a top bar that just has the logo as well as the Madness Labs font, and then it's actually got the 4 different links that we're gonna try to get people to click on, and then our social bar as well as a place to click through to read the actual blog post at the bottom. So we want to keep it dead simple, because again, we're a design website. We don't have a whole lot of content needs. We're really just kind of showing people, hey, we make apps, we have services, here's a little bit about us, and then we're also going to be starting up a swag shop. Again, that's where these t-shirts come in, so I'm going to hit you with it again. Boom! Support us on Patreon. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to jump into app-home, and I'm probably going to remove most of this content, because as you can see, I don't really have, I mean, I might have a header bar, but I'm not going to use the stuff that Ionic is giving us. So I'm going to go ahead and delete all of this stuff, or at least most of it. I'm going to delete this toolbar. I'm going to delete all this content down here. And as I said last time, feel free if you have any questions or you want to see how things are going. Oh, there's Valerio. Hey, what's going on, man? Yeah. So I forgot. I got to give a shout out to that person this time. It was Valerio, right? Can you jump on the last video? There was somebody who left a comment on our last cast who fixed our typings problem. So I want to give them a shout out.
Oh, okay.
So, okay, cool. So I'm just going to continue on while she looks that up. But I'm pretty sure it was you, Valerio. And if so, awesome sauce, and we'll get to that in just one second. Okay, so at the top here we have our top bar, and then we've got this content area here with 4 bubbles, so we're probably going to use some kind of grid. And then we've got the bottom bar. At the bottom, we're going to make this sticky, probably like a position fixed. So I'm just going to start stubbing this out, and we'll take it from there. So I'm going to need an image, and again, I'm just going to copy. Let's see. I'm going to copy image link. I'm going to copy the image address from the current image. So source equals boom. Okay, cool. So let's just see what that looks like. Head back over to our home page. Okay, cool. We got a big blank page, just like I wanted. Okay, cool. So now I need the Madness Labs font. So I'll just say Madness Labs. See how that looks. In all of its plain glory. Oh yeah, it looks good. Okay, so now I'm gonna pop open, and I'm actually gonna keep this shrunk down pretty small. Generally, I work on 2 monitors, so I don't usually have my app squished. I like to have a full monitor to view kind of the app as well as the console. But we'll just roll with it because you've only got 1 screen. So, okay, so I'm gonna open up my app home.scss, and I'm gonna pop this guy open right next to this so we can see them at the same time. And what I want to do is I want to my Ion header. I want to style the image tag. I want to make it maybe. Let's see what she's got in the prototype. And what's really cool is after she exports the stuff out, they have this new design view where you can actually see the raw data. So I can see here that this is 20 by 4. Are those pixels? Oh, there we go. 57. So 57 there, 57. So it's about 60 by 60. So I can say height 60 pixels, width 60 pixels. Let's display block. Okay, cool. So as promised, last cast, let's just make sure that this worked first. There we go. Cool. You can see it's got the height and the width. That looks terrible. I'm just going to let the height adjust itself automatically. No. There we go. Okay, so now that that works, I'm going to take a second to give a shout out to Valerio. He made it, I'm assuming it's he, so excuse me, please correct me if I'm wrong. So he made a really good call out that we were trying to do some typings on our app card. Was there an app card? Yeah, it was actually inside of our app, our page. Where was it at? Apps, there it is. So inside of this page, we had done some typings up here, apps, any, and then what I'd done is I'd done typings where I said like this, and then I was icon, string, put that down, icon string, title, string, description, string, and then when I finished this, I noted that I couldn't actually I couldn't get it to work. It was like giving me some typing error that said type 2 is not assignable to type 1, and so I was totally confused because I'm a total noob when it comes to static typing. So he was nice enough to point out that in order to correctly do this, we kind of define the object, and then we tell it that there's going to be an array of those objects. So you put the object decorator here, or sorry, the object definition here, and then you actually put a set of brackets after it to let it know that there's going to be an array of those. And now you can see my typings. They like it. They like it. So thanks again, Valerio. Awesome. That's great. I'm glad we got viewership from all over the world. This is awesome. This is exactly what we wanted. So thanks again, Valerio. That was a really good call out. And if anybody else sees me make dumb mistakes, which happens a lot, just call it out. Because again, these casts are supposed to be informative. And I'm not, again, there's no script. There's no real, I mean, we've got a general, a really loosey-goosey kind of end goal. But more so, I'd like this to be a forum where developers can come in and ask some good questions. Why are you doing that? Would it be better to do that? Because as well as maybe you learning a couple things, seeing how web components work and our general workflow and how we do things, also it's a chance for us to learn a little bit and see. I know there's probably a couple of guys at Ionic. Maybe they can see something that I'm doing terribly wrong and go, "Oh my God, you idiot! Don't do that." So yeah, please comment and let us know so that we can all grow and get better together. That's what this is all about. So, okay. So now I'm going to jump back over to my home page. Cool. Okay, so now on this thing, I want I've got this. There's a gradient in the background here, so it's going to be like this giant background image, and then it's going to actually then there's actually, like, as you can see here, there's a little bit of a gradient, so it goes from like a black to a translucent. And what we're going to do is jump over to one of my favorite tools. I've got this guy up here in my bar because I don't remember the web link. So this is by ColorZilla. They have this great thing, the Ultimate CSS Gradient Generator. Thing is super, super helpful. So anytime I need a gradient, I don't know, I can't stand writing all the code for it, and I'd rather just visually see it. So this is a great tool. I don't have a link in the description for this one, but I might edit it after the video. But you can see here, it's just colorzilla.com/gradient-editor. Super useful tool. So if you don't have one of these, or you don't know about this guy, really helpful. I'm gonna go ahead and make up my gradient here because I happen to know what she set it as. So we've got black color on both sides, and then what we want to do is set my opacity on this guy to 100%, and then we want to set my opacity to 0 over here. Awesome. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the comments off, and then everything else I'm going to leave so it looks all good. So I'm going to copy that. I'm going to put that under my header here. I'm going to shrink this guy back down so we can have a little bit more room to see. Awesome. You can see this is a lot of text. This is why I don't want to type it, because why would I? And what's great is it also gives you the nice vendor prefixes. I'm fairly certain that, like, most browsers don't need these anymore to do gradients, but it's still good. And look at that, we're even supporting Internet Explorer -100 or 6 or whatever terrible version that filters were used on. So awesome. So now if I jump back over, I should see, yeah, I've got my nice background gradient. Awesome, that looks great. So now I'm gonna put this inside of a bold tag, which I'm probably not supposed to do. Not supposed to use strong tags anymore. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and style this guy up. And we want to, let's see, how are we going to do this? Let's do a float left on this image. And hopefully that should sit us right next to that font now. There we go. Awesome. And then let's go ahead and give this a, since this is height, since this has got a height of like 56 pixels, as we can see here, let's go ahead and give this, so one way that I like to center text is I like to go ahead and do a height matching the container, so 56 pixels, and then I do a line height of 56 pixels. And that kind of forces the text to sit right in the middle. Awesome. So you can see here our logo is a little weird. The M is actually a little bit smaller, I think, than the L. So I'm going to go ahead and play with this a little bit. I'm going to take the line height and maybe adjust it a little bit just to get it sitting more what appears to match up with this little gap here. Okay, so and I'm going to do a padding left and maybe give it about 15 pixels of padding there. And then I'm going to do up here on this guy. I just realized this guy is bigger than its actual container. So it's going to do 50 pixels. That leaves us 6 pixels on the top and the bottom. So let's do like padding and then like 3 pixels on the top and the bottom, and then maybe 15 pixels on the left and the right. And then actually I might not even need this padding here. Oh no, why are you so tiny? Why are you so tiny? That just doesn't seem right. That is not 50 pixels. Oh, it's the padding. Haha. Okay, that's why. So the padding is messing with it here. So I actually need 50 plus 30, so 80 pixels. Let's do 80 pixels wide. There we go. Okay, that looks a little better. Yeah, I'll roll with it for right now. Okay, cool. So now we've got our gradient up here. We need this font color to be white, and we need that font that she has in here, this crazy, awesome looking font. And what font is that? Alexander Quill. Okay, so cool, I can copy it. Okay, so so if you've never worked with fonts in the browser, too many tabs. If you've never worked with fonts in the browser, I can say font family, and I can say Alexander Quill, and I need to put some quotes around this guy. And then I want to give some fallbacks. So we're probably going to want to use like Arial, Helvetica, Sans Serif as a fallback. And this should work on our local machine. So yeah, you can see here, works awesome. However, if I'm not on my machine, which has the font installed, then anyone else that comes to this website, they're going to get the fallback of Arial. And then if they don't have Arial on their computer, they're going to get Helvetica, and etc. etc. So what we can do though is we can set up a CSS web font, and we can actually point to this font inside of our assets, and then that will actually allow us to load that font in the browser for everyone. So that's probably what we're gonna have to do here. Let me finish styling it up a little bit though, just to make sure I have everything. So jumping over here, I can see that, what is the font size? 44 pixels. So, and again, Adobe XD, shout out to your team over there. You guys did amazing work, especially this just came out of beta. This design spec view is super helpful. Gives you all the paddings and all that stuff, which makes our lives so much easier. Okay, and then we want color. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Awesome. Now we should start to look like, okay, cool. Obviously, need to do some media query stuff so that when we get to a really small screen like this, but generally no screen smaller than 340, 360 pixels. So that looks pretty good. Pretty good. That's pretty good. Okay, so let's go ahead and set up this font here because we're going to use this a lot throughout our project. So again, I'm going to Google CSS web font. So if you're not a developer and you're seeing this and you're going, wow, he has to Google in the middle of teaching people, welcome to being a developer. If you don't know how to use Google, you are screwed, my friend. You are heavily screwed. I'm going to go into my global app.css. So this is where in the Ionic PWA stencil application, it actually gives you a chance to set up global stuff that gets pulled in. So this is where I'm going to set this up, and I'm going to set the font name, the font name as what I have over here, Alexander Quill. And then what I want to do is set my URL to be the assets folder here. However, I'm going to put it up here. I'm going to make a new folder under my assets called fonts. And actually they have singular, so I'm going to keep the structure we have here. It's just called font. Okay, cool. So I've got a font library or folder here, and now I just need to go into my computer here and grab the font. So if you've never grabbed a font from a Windows machine, you're gonna, oh joy for you, you're gonna get to see how it works. So we're gonna go into Windows C, we're gonna go into Windows, we're going to go into fonts. And now you'll get this guy. You could also just type in like probably fonts under start, like fonts. Yeah, so it looks like you can get there just as well that way. But you know, now you know all the ways. Okay, so let's go ahead and grab our font for Alexander Quill. That'll be at the top. I'm blind, I'm blind. Where are you, Alexander? You and your quillishness. Okay, I definitely don't see it up here. Maybe it's at the bottom. It must be named slightly differently than what it is. I also used, Emily used Adobe Typekit in order to get this font, so it might be in Adobe as well. See, this is the joy of getting to watch this live stream, is just watching me drown. Just like, oh god, I can't find it. I look like an idiot. That's all right. It's nothing new. Okay, so Alexander Quill, I see you. I see you, but why won't you come to me? Of course, they just don't have a download button. Why would they? Well, crap. Just might not like these Adobe. Like Adobe's like, no, you can't use our fonts on your computer, on your website. You don't get it. No. All right. Well, I guess we're going to. Let's do one more thing. We'll check Google Fonts, see if they have it. So this is another great website. Again, I don't have a link in the description for this one, surprisingly. It's like my catchphrase now. But this is another great website. If you're looking for fonts to use inside your website, Google Fonts, fonts.google.com, and you can use this to search fonts, and then they also give you the code that you need. And
It says Alexander Quill. Are you doing that?
yeah, there it is. Cool. So luckily, Google Fonts has my back. Fonts.com. Oh geez, it's gonna try to make us buy it. Just give me the font. All right. Well, I'll have to get this. Offline. However, what you do is just throw your font inside of here. Note that you will have to kill your build and then restart your build, because what's going to happen is for assets inside of the project, they only run once whenever the project is built. So when I start my command line npm start, one of the tasks that it runs is to copy everything out of this assets folder under source into this www assets directory down here. And so you're going to want to put your fonts inside of your source asset font directory, and then whenever you go about running your npm start next, it will copy it down, and then in here you can actually do / here to start at the top level of the domain, and then you're going to do font. Is it font or fonts? It is font / Alexander Quill dot TTF true type font. Okay, so again, this isn't going to work just because I need to actually put the font file in there. However, we can still see it on my local, so I'm just gonna keep trucking here. Yes, thank you, baby. Yeah, that's it. Just can't be found. It looks like Adobe's hiding it from me so that I don't try to copy it out. Okay, cool. So now let's just throw a sample picture in the background here. So I'm gonna jump over to our blog and log in the admin and grab one of these media guys, media library. So I'm gonna grab the picture that she had. So it's my dumb looking ass. But oh wait, no, I can curse until we get monetized. That's right. Okay, cool. So I'm gonna grab the link here for this, and I'm gonna throw this on as the background image. That way we can actually see this shizness in action. So app home, background image, URL, boom, and we're gonna do background size, cover. So cover is what's gonna tell it to cover the entire background, so it won't leave any white space. And then we're gonna do background repeat, no repeat. And hopefully message retracted. Don't retract your messages. We want to see your messages. All right.
Oh,
I've got my coffee here so I don't get crabby. Ah? Yeah? I need a pun counter on here. And again, for those of you just tuning in, I am Try Ketchum, Ash's older brother. And I never got to leave to Pallet Town and go on a Pokemon adventure because Mom likes him better. Awesome. Okay, so our background image isn't working, so that's good. That's exactly what I wanted. So I'm going to inspect my element here. And let's move these DevTools down to the bottom so that I can actually read them. Ion content. Where's our overall page here? I don't even see app home. Oh, there it is. Okay, so what's happening here is apparently our app home is like technically 0 pixels tall. I'm gonna try to add a display block. Nah, it's still not gonna do it. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna do position absolute. So we're not gonna have any content on our page overlapping, or you know, we're not gonna have any content that we're gonna need to scroll. So I'm gonna go into position absolute, and I'm gonna use this little old school trick. So this is if again you're not a CSS pro. We're going to use this position absolute, top 0, left 0, bottom 0, right 0, and that should hopefully get this to expand and cover the whole page. And it doesn't. The fuck? Okay, we're going to do it another way. So we're going to, so I think what's happening here, and I've had this problem a couple times, is because they scope the styles in on a lot of these components. So using stuff like position absolute, position relative, those things get a little tricky sometimes just because of the fact that these components are loaded in the Shadow DOM at times, and they're also just kind of prone to like each one is almost considered like position absolute or position relative. And so when you use position absolute, like in this case, when I used it here, it actually is considering it only position absolute according to its container, because we're using the router here to load this component in. So I think that's what's kind of going on here. Really sucks because actually, you know what it might be? You know what it might be? Oh no! My face! Alright, let me see if I can get my webcam back here. No. There we go. Okay. Thanks. Valerio, man, you were just our savior on this cast, I swear. Okay. Okay. So I think what actually might be happening is our content area. Yep. Aha, okay. I'm not as much of an idiot as I thought I was. Okay. So, I'm going to go ahead and put us back to where we were. And what I need to do is target my Ion scroll, and I need to tell it to have a background color of transparent. Now we should get my ugly mug. I might have to get more specific. Let's do .content. There we go. Okay. So now you can see we have my ugly mug there on the background. Awesome. So we're starting to get there. We've got this great background image. But now what you can see is it's kind of sitting over to the left. I'd like it to be more centered. So I'm going to use another background rule here. I'm going to do background position and just say center. And that's going to center the image. So that way the overlapping line, so anything that overlaps outside of the browser, it's going to center whatever spills over. So we'll have, in this case, kind of the image sitting in the middle towards the center. And you can actually use left, right, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, so now we're started in the right direction. So another thing I might want to do is, I probably want to take and it looks from the concept here, it's kind of grayed out a little bit, or opaque. So I probably need to make it opaque. However, I can't really add the opacity rule on this app home, or my entire page is going to go opaque. So what I'm probably going to do is, instead of doing it like this, I'm going to do an and before. So if you've never used a before element, it's basically going to create a pseudo element on the page with CSS. And we have to add one little extra piece here in order to make it work. So we're going to do content and then just put a blank string in there. And so what this is going to do is it's going to create a little pseudo element in our page. So you're not going to see any difference here after I save. But if we inspect, we can see that we have ion scroll. And then, oh no, sorry, not ion scroll. Up here, where our app home is, you can see that now all of those styles are on this colon before. So now we've created like a pseudo element that only exists in the browser. It doesn't actually, as you can see, we don't have an element over here with before. And we can use before or after. Generally, you can think of it like 3 layers of paper. So you have before being the layer that's at the very bottom, then you have the actual element itself, and then you have the after that sits on top. Note, you can play with those a little bit, and you can do some really cool stuff with it. In this case, I just need to make this opacity of maybe 0.6 or 0.5. And what you're going to see is our text should stay the full opacity. Cool. And our background gets a little bit more opaque. So I might want to do like a background color on our actual regular div. Maybe like, looks like she has some kind of darker color here. Maybe like a 333 or something. No, see, I'm not Ash Ketchum. I'm Ash's older brother, Try Ketchum. Yeah, so, you know, and that is not just a nerdy pun. So I'm Try Ketchum. I didn't get to leave the house and go on a Pokemon journey because Mom said that I would be a good developer. So, you know, to each their own, you know. He gets to go explore and have friends, and I develop. Anyway, back to the cast. So, okay, so now I've got a background color on the actual app home, and hopefully it gets a little darker. Yeah, yes, no, yes, no. If not, I might slap it on the before itself. Actually, what would probably be more appropriate is to put this on my app.css again, just because this is something that's going to be like ubiquitous throughout the entire website. Come on, you can do it. Tiny screen. Did I misspell it or something? No, background. Somebody doesn't like me because this is not working. I say. And I can see it right here. It's just not working. I'm gonna close my build and try it again. So maybe it's just behind. All right, so while I wait for this to build again, if you're just joining us, we are rebuilding our website. So we built a website years ago. We've since skinned it with this awesome winter theme that we've been rocking for over a year now. So we're ready to update this thing, and Stencil and Web Components seem like a good opportunity for us to do that. And if you could, please subscribe to us on YouTube. If you are new to Stencil, new to Web Components, we've got an awesome playlist on there, youtube.com/MadnessLabs. Please feel free to subscribe because we're going to have more and more content coming out over the next couple months. And we're going to try to do these every Tuesday, hopefully scaling up eventually to Tuesdays and Thursdays. We're going to be working on our website. Once we knock that out in the next couple weeks, we're going to move on to probably Madness, our other anime streaming website. And then on other stuff like that. And Emily's going to come after sniping questions. She's going to come and look goofy in the background. You know, it's just how we roll here at Madness Labs. It's how we do. And I, the guy in the polka decks, I am Bobby, and my wife Emily is behind me answering all the questions. So feel free to ask away, and she'll do her best to answer your questions or file them on to me, and I will answer them. So awesome. So cool. I think we're loaded again, and okay, that's still not taking that style like it should be. Man, it just does not like me today. Okay, I'm going to try to slap it back here on the app home again. Yeah, I don't know what the deal is. All right. My app. Okay, so now I've got the generalized image in the background. For some reason, it's not changing the background color. And if somebody knows why I'm an idiot, please point it out. Well, I mean, other than the obvious ones. So I'm going to go ahead and start to put the little orbs that she has here in the prototype. So you can see she's got an orb for each one of our pages. So we have apps, services, about, and swag. And I'm going to go ahead and put those on the screen now. So what I'm going to need to do is I'm going to need to use the Ion grid. Oh, too many tabs. So I'm going to close out my app home here, close all this stuff out, clean up my tabs. Okay, so in my app home, in my content area, I need 4 bubbles. So I'm going to make an Ion grid. And what we're going to do is inside of our Ion grid, we're going to need a row. Ion row. And then inside of our row, we're going to need columns. And actually, we're going to need 4 of them. So I'm going to do Ion row times 4. So that's an Emmet trick. So if you're not familiar with Emmet, then Google that because it's awesome. Cool. So now I've got my 4 rows, wow, I'm dumb. Col. So I'm going to do Ion col times 4, and it's going to, and then when I click tab here, it's going to make 4 columns. Awesome. And then inside each one of these, I'm going to need a little bubble, and then I'm going to need an icon, and then I'm going to need some kind of subtext here. So let's go ahead and make that. So let's do a div with a class of bubble, and then an I with a class, no, sorry, I lied. Ion icon, name equals, and then a p tag, or text in there, apps. And then this Ion icon, this is how we can actually use the Ionicons. So if you've never used /Ionicons, so if you've never used Ionic Framework, it comes built in with a set of icons that are good for almost every project that you could be working on. It's not as full featured. There's not as many icons as like Font Awesome or something like that. However, what's really neat is they give you kind of 3 different styles of icon. Their goal is to be kind of assimilate the same icons across all 3 platforms as far as Android, iOS, and web. So basically they have a good set of icons. In this case, we need the phone icon. So if you head on over to ionicframework.com/docs/ionicons, you can see the full list here and even search through them. So I need the phone. So cool, we got the phone right here. And as you can see, they've got the documentation right here. And again, what's cool is the Ionic Framework docs work, about, I'd say 90% with the Stencil applications using the Ionic Core. So if you're already familiar with Ionic 2 or 3, this should be really easy to pick up and start running with in your apps. And is actually when Ionic 4 drops, you're still going to be writing Angular if you're already in an Ionic 2 or 3 application. You're still going to be writing Angular. It's just that behind the scenes, all of your Ion tags inside of your project are going to be loaded in via web components. So we're just kind of skipping past all of that and going straight for writing this whole website with web components. And we get to take advantage of things like pre-rendering, where we render a flat version of the page basically, and then all of the other goodness that comes along with just using standard web components rather than having a framework wrapped around it. Awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and grab this guy, and I'm going to pop him right here. And let's go and see how that looks in the browser. No. Okay. So now we should have an icon on the screen at least. Cool, yeah, we see we've got a little guy. So now I'm probably going to want to dictate the styles for like bubble. So I'm going to go app-home.css, and boom. So somewhere down here, I'm going to do .bubble. And it looks like from the prototype here, we have about 150 by 150. So I'm going to go back over here. So I'm going to say display block width 150 pixels by height 150 pixels. Margin 0 auto so that it sits in the center. And then I'm going to do a border radius of 100%. And what that's going to do is it's going to make it rounded. And just so that we can see, I'm going to add a background color of white for right now. Just so that we can see the actual bubble. And then we'll go ahead and layer on the colors of each one of these. Cool. So now I'm going to write some nested rules here. Let's go ahead and do the Ion icon. Let's give it a height. Actually, let's go back to the prototype again. And it looks like it has a height of 42 and a height of 112 and a width of 42. So let's do. So what you're going to notice here, I'm going to do 100 pixels. So it looks like it's around 100 pixels. Width 100 pixels. So what you're going to notice is our icon is probably not going to change sizes. Yep, it didn't. So these, unlike what you're probably used to with like if you're using Font Awesome or something like that, these icons actually are SVGs. So it's just a web component. It's a custom element that pulls in an SVG. So it's not using a font as with Font Awesome. This is actually pulling in an SVG. So we actually, if we can inspect the element here, we can see that this guy actually is an SVG. And so we have to actually target the SVG itself to change the size of it. So let's go ahead and do that. So we'll do Ion icon, and then I like to leave the height and the width on the actual container so that we know exactly how big the icon element itself is. Otherwise your SVG kind of goes outside the bounds of it, and then that can create some weirdness when you're kind of doing some inspecting. So I'm going to do SVG, and then I'm going to do the same thing, height 100 pixels, width 100 pixels. I'm going to save. And now we should see our icon blows up. Cool. Awesome. So I'm going to add a margin of 0 auto onto our Ion icon, and that should force it to sit in the middle. And I'll probably have to also add a display block. And as I noted in the last cast, I hang my mouth open when I'm like in deep focus. So if you just see me like drooling at the screen over here, it's just because I'm focusing. Okay, so now I've got my icon looking fairly decent. Now I want to get my paragraph tag looking like it is over here. So I can see here my font here is my Alexander Quill again. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this guy. Awesome. And then I'm going to say font size of 20 pixels. Text align center. And again, if you're just joining us, this is Adobe XD. It's the greatest thing to happen to prototyping since Sketch. And the bonus is that it's cross-platform. So Windows, Mac, works on all of them. They've got some really great tools. Great work, Adobe. So please check that out if you want to make your life a lot easier. Okay, so the height of my container is a little bit, it looks like it needs a little bit more padding. Let's inspect this guy. Like we might have to add some padding on my bubble. Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and on my bubble itself, I'm going to go ahead and say padding maybe like 15 pixels. Get them to kind of come together a little bit. Okay, something is really big. Bubble, okay. Icon. Why is our paragraph so... Our icon here. Okay, so paragraph tags naturally come with some margin, so I just need to get rid of that margin. And now we should be sitting all nice and friendly. There we go. That looks very close to our prototype. Coolio. So now I just need to add those colors. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's color this guy. That. And okay, so the SVG, to color these SVGs, some of them work by just coloring the SVG itself. But note, you're not using colors. Like this isn't a font again. So my paragraph tag is a font. I'm coloring it with the color rule. SVGs, you have to use the fill rule. And I'm going to try to use the fill rule on this guy and see if it works. So some of the icons I had to actually target. Yeah, so it looks like it works ish. So as you can see, I've got a little weird outline here, and that's probably because the SVG itself has like an outline on it. But what's cool is I can just target path, and this will target all the paths inside of the SVG, and I can fill them with white. So that should make it completely white. No, no, no. Is there an outline on this guy? Fill, there might be an stroke. Yeah, there's a stroke rule set to this guy. So we can actually we can get rid of that as well, and then we probably will. So oops, whoa. So let's say stroke 1 2 3 4 5 6. And again, if you're just joining us, feel free, ask some questions. Please don't make it just be me in a room talking to myself and forcing Emily to listen to me, because we could do that any day of the week. So please feel free to ask some questions, or call out things that I'm doing wrong. Again, I want this to be as much of a learning experience for us as it is for you guys. So please ask some questions, stuff like that. Okay, cool. So we've got our icon and our text white, so we can't see it anymore. So let's go ahead and slap some kind of color on this guy. So maybe we'll give this another class of like bubble app. Well, I'll just do a class of apps. And now in here, I can do a really cool and. So if you've never used SCSS, and lets you target things. So it's much like writing, if I was to do bubble.apps, it'd be like writing that. You can also do this with like hover and stuff like that. So if I do and hover, or and anything like that, it just kind of makes it, when it compiles out, it'll actually compile it into one and rule. So I can say and.apps, and then I can say background color, and then I got to grab the color here from this guy. Boom. And I'm going to paste that. And now we should have a nice little pink bubble for our apps. And I'm actually going to take the background color rule off this guy altogether now. Oh, I need to save my app home. Awesome. So now we got our first bubble. So let's speed this up a little bit, because we've been going at a glacial pace thus far, and that drives me crazy. So I'm going to go ahead and paste in 4 more bubbles. And I'm going to name this one, let's see, I'm going to just pop this prototype open. So this one's going to be services. services, oops, about, swag, and since we're talking about swag, and I gotta look through icons, so since we're talking about swag and I've got to look through some icons, be a good chance to point out that you can visit us on Patreon, and if you sign up today and donate $10 or more a month, we will send you your own t-shirt. So generally this is reserved for people that donate I think 25 or 50 or more like that. But we are, as a special for tuning into these casts, we are going to give you a t-shirt with a Madness Labs logo on it. And it's not going to be as shabby as the one that's on our header. That one was made years ago with a crappy iron-on thing from Avery. These are legit, professionally made t-shirts that will have the Madness Labs logo on it. And if you donate 50 or more, we will actually personalize it for you and put whatever you would like on it to show off your mad swag. So head on over to our Patreon, patreon.com/madnesslabs. And even if you just, want to pitch a couple bucks just to show that you support us, every dollar that's donated is going to go towards us making a Skillshare. We're going to take some of these stencil courses that we're making, and we're going to actually make a Skillshare tutorial that's going to go through, and it's going to be a lot more organized and scripted than this and our other previous videos. But as they say, nothing is free, so it's going to take us some time. It's going to take us some resources to put this tutorial together, but hopefully with the lovely support of viewers like you, we can build these new resources and share them with people, and again, keep them 100% free. We don't want advertisements. We don't have advertisements on our website. We don't want to get all ad and spammy. We want to keep things free because knowledge and all this stuff is supposed to be free. So awesome. Well, now I've got my bow tie on there. I also need my information and my services. So info. And use this one. Look at my horse is amazing. Give it a lick, tastes just like raisins. Ooh, that's dirty. Awesome, now we got a nice little wrench. Emily and her iOS icons, I swear I'm gonna lose it.
They are
I'm a Mac. I'm not a Mac guy. I am a Windows guy at heart. That's what happens when you start out as a technician. I mean, wannabe Pokemon trainer. Okay, cool. So now I've got all my icons in there. Now we should see all of our different icons. Awesome, we do. Woo! Go us. Okay, so that's done. Now we just need to add the colors to all these guys. So I'm going to do that. And dot services. And dot about and dot swag. Coolio. All right, let's get our background colors here. Copy. Okay, so I promise we're going to get into some stencil here. I know this has been mostly CSS up to this point. So cool. Now we should have our orbs on the screen. And because we're using the Ion grid, you'll notice that they kind of snap into place where they need to be. We're going to do some more styling on that. But again, I want to get more into some of the stencil stuff. So now what we need from our prototype here is we need this bottom bar. So rather than try to put more content in this page, as you can see, I'm getting up to like 50 something lines here. I'm going to actually make a new component for our footer bar because maybe we're going to use this other places. Maybe not, I don't know, but it's probably best to put this in its own component. So I'm gonna go ahead and open up a new terminal window. And something cool that I actually found is that in one of the updates, they must have done something with the stencil compiler. It stopped breaking when I added components. So last cast I'd said that you had to kill your build and restart it every time you use the engine add component command. Now it looks like it actually works just fine. So super awesome, right? So let's go ahead and in a new terminal window, what we're gonna do is do engine AC, and then we're gonna do, let's call this Madness footer. Yeah, I'm gonna call it Madness footer. Okay, so if you got an error when you tried to run that, it's probably because you don't have engine installed. So engine is a command line utility that we made here at Madness Labs, and we use it to just make our lives a little easier. So instead of copying a folder, pasting it, renaming a bunch of files, we just use this engine AC command for add component, or you can do engine add, I think it's add hyphen component, to add a component. You can also do RC to remove a component, and then the start command that we did in last cast also comes from our command line tool. It's just really the CLI tool that we made is just a wrapper around a couple commands that eases the process a little bit, makes it so that it's a little quicker to get stuff scaled. So if you don't have it installed, just run npm install -g MadnessEnjin, and that will actually install the latest version. I think we're on 1.1.18, so feel free to install that guy. And if you got an error from that, then you don't have Node installed. And if you don't have Node installed, what are you doing here? You need to be over in our other video where we teach you how to install your environment and get it all set up. So again, link, description, YouTube, Madness Labs. So go ahead and jump on over there. Oh no, where's my YouTube thing? Yay, there it is. So go ahead and jump on over to our YouTube channel and subscribe while you're over there, because you got to keep try, catch 'em employed here. So yeah, head on over there, set up your environment. But all the rest of us that already got our stuff set up, we're going to jump on over into the footer. And we've got the same kind of thing going on here. We have a gradient, and it's going in the opposite direction. So I'm going to pop open my gradient editor again. And this time I'm actually going to do a little reverse. And now you can see that it has reversed the gradient the other way. And I'm going to now pop open let's close my sidebar here. And I'm going to pop open my Madness footer. And I'm going to apply that gradient. Sweetness. And I'm going to give it a height because it looks like it's got a height here. Cool. It's got about 55 pixels. I'm going to say height. 55 pixels. Display block. Awesome. So now we shouldn't see anything because we have to actually add that into our page. So under the Ion content, I'm going to do madness-footer. And now we should see it on the page. Boom. So as I said, what's cool is don't actually have to restart the build. So we can just open up another one of these PowerShell windows here, and we can type in our engine add commands, add these components, keep things really, really quick, which is awesome. So cool. Now you can see that we have this bar at the bottom, and I think, yep, it's going to be fixed automatically, which is great. That's exactly what we want. So great. We've got our footer. Now we need to actually put those social icons in there. So we're going to do much like what we just did with our bubbles on the screen here. We're going to do that same kind of thing. We're going to put a div here maybe, and we're going to say social class equals social icons. And then each one of these, we're probably just going to, let's just style up the icon itself. That way we don't have to worry about, doing a bunch of extra work styling stuff up. So we're gonna do a Twitter icon. Actually no, we will actually have another one. We're gonna use an A tag on each one of these guys. and then inside. And generally, as a rule of thumb, I try to keep, like, a lot of people when they start developing, let's change this to a footer tag rather than a div. A lot of people when they start, it's really hard to figure out what tags to use where and how many tags to use. I try to use it as few as possible, and really, like, if you're having to apply a bunch of classes, you might be doing something wrong. Like your content should be pretty explicit, like, or your tag should be explicit to kind of what's going on. Like, I have a footer tag, then there's a section of content here that's going to be social icons. That's the only reason I'm wrapping it inside of this div. And then each one of these links is going to be the circular bubble that we see down here at the bottom. So really ask yourself, like every tag that you use, like, what is its purpose? As you can see here, we have the bubble that's going to end up being the A tag. Then we have the icon itself that's going to be the icon. So every tag should have a real purpose. A lot of people, I come into their code and they have like tons of divs, wrapping divs, and somewhere down the line they did something so that they could achieve some effect. But really question that stuff, because that's one of the most common mistakes I think I see. So I'm gonna do https twitter.com. So this is a great time to link everyone into our Twitter. So follow us on Twitter at MadnessLabs, and I'm gonna go ahead and do our A tags. So A, we want the same thing, border radius 100%, a height of, it looks like each one of these is about 50 pixels, no, 30 pixels, so about 35. Width 35 pixels. We're gonna display block. And then we're going to say background color. Okay. Then we need our icons. So let's first off just make sure that works. It would help if I saved. Cool, so that's our Twitter. Then we have, yay, our links are working. Okay, so that's our Twitter. Now we need, what else do we got here? Facebook. I don't have a title card for Facebook because Facebook is not for business. Facebook.com/MadnessLabs. So we're also on Facebook. If you happen to get there, happen to have one of those accounts that billions of people have. Okay, cool. We got Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, which I don't even know. Do they have an icon for that? Yes, they do. I mean, obviously it's in the prototype, right? Durr. So again, you can find us on YouTube at youtube.com/MadnessLabs. So sorry for you stencil pros, or you like coding pros who came here today to watch some really nitty-gritty stencil stuff. Fortunately, we're making a marketing website that doesn't have a whole lot of functionality, but we're going to get into that here shortly. I just want to kind of finish this up. I will be momentarily, we're going to jump into actually grabbing data from an API. So we're going to do like a get request to get the blog information. We're going to make a little component for this guy down here at the bottom that gets the actual latest blog. So we will be doing that, and then I'll probably go over maybe writing some tests. So stick in there. We're gonna get around to it. We're just having to do a lot of styling stuff today. So please forgive me if you were expecting to see some really lower level stuff today. But if you're new to web development, this should be pretty helpful for you. Hopefully you're getting a lot out of this. How many viewers do we have sitting on here right now? 4. Okay. Okay, logo, and then this one's GitHub. And again, we have a GitHub account, so if you want to check these projects out, this project's actually synced up to GitHub. MadnessLabs/MadnessLabs PWA is this project here, and it's open sourced. I've got it all out there so that everyone can see it. Awesome sauce. Okay, so now we've got all of our icons there. What I probably want to do is give these a display of inline block. yeah, display inline block these guys. Get them all sitting next to each other. And do you have any spacing? Yeah, a little bit of spacing. About 10 pixels of spacing on each side. So I'm going to add some padding to this guy. Maybe 5 pixels on the top and bottom and 15 pixels on the left and right. Okay, we're going to do the same thing with our iron icons. Let's get the size here. And again, hopefully this is helpful to see a little bit of how we kind of put things together. So you can see that every project starts with R&D. Like we sit down, we have a meeting with the client. They give us kind of the specs of what they want, what they're hoping to achieve. We then kind of prioritize things. And then Emily works as the project manager. She kind of works with the client to then kind of prioritize things and break things down into tiny little pieces. Like this in this case, this was like kind of one project that we have as the home page. And then each one of these then gets broken down a little bit further into components. And then we take those components and then start to actually program them in once we have the prototypes and approval from the stakeholder and everything like that. So it looks like these are about 20 pixels. So we're going to say height 20 pixels, width 20 pixels, margin 0 auto, display block. Then we're going to target our SVG. We're going to say height 20 pixels, width 20 pixels. And then if everything went well, we should see our icon sitting more in the middle. Great time for a coffee break. And if there is something that you'd like to see us cover, feel free to ask. I mean, I'm never going to say no. I mean, I might tell you like here in a little bit, or I might say we've got that planned for next week. Again, we're not too terribly structured with this. We wanted to leave it more up to community and up to discussion. More so, this is about us working on some projects that we've been putting on the back burner, and then also opening that up to more of a forum so that people can ask questions, and we can also kind of reveal some of the things that that we've ran into programming these Stencil web applications. Doop 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 doop. Sit in the middle, icons, you can do it. Okay, I'm going to add a little bit on these guys. I'm going to add a little bit of margin. So maybe like 5 pixels of margin. 0 at the top and the bottom, and then like 5 pixels on the left and right. Then I'm going to take this down to like 10 pixels. Since these icons, oh no. Yeah, so if anybody at Stencil is watching, every now and then like I end up running out of memory, and it just craps out on me. So I should probably file a pull or an issue on GitHub like a good developer, but I'll just complain about it online. You know, that seems to be what the trend is these days. Okay, cool. So now I'm at least running again. Let's put this display block back on these guys. Okay. So, you know what? Just because I like you guys so much, I'm gonna probably do something a little bit different. So we might eventually add or remove or do whatever we want to do to these social networks. So it might be cool to actually like feed in a prop here in order to loop over like a list of social networks. That way, if we add more in like Pinterest or stuff like that we have on our current website, we can add them without having to come back in here and make a bunch of changes. So let's go ahead and take a prop. So we're going to do prop, and then we're going to say social, we'll say networks. And the networks are going to be a list. Thanks again, Valerio, for that awesome call out, because that's like something that's been driving me nuts. Okay, so it's going to be a list of objects, and each object is going to have a link, which is going to be a string. It's going to have an icon, which is also going to be a string. And that's all we need. So now down here, we're going to take this out. We're going to say, so now we need to do we're going to use our little curlies. And the curlies, again, if you're new to JSX or TSX, this is basically going to allow us to put JavaScript inline inside of our HTML. So it's super helpful. If you've written React or anything like that, or maybe you've done some Angular 2, 4, this should be pretty familiar. So we're going to do this dot networks dot map. And then inside of here, we're going to do a fat arrow, and then we're going to leave off the curlies, because what happens is in a map function, when you don't use the curlies, it actually is going to return back whatever's inside of it automatically. So in this case, we need to, as you can see in our render function, we're returning this content, and that's what puts it on the screen. So in this case, we're going to be rendering like each one of the loops, or sorry, give me a second here. Woo! Okay, each one of the items inside of this networks array, it's going to map over each one of them, and then this HTML lump here is what's going to be returned. And each one of these is going to be a network, and then we're going to do network.link, and then instead of here, we're going to say network.icon. And now, so I don't have to redo this whole thing, I'm going to go back into my app home, and let's create a new state item. And we're going to say @state. And remember, state items are just, they're properties that exist on your class that when they get updated, it's going to force a render to occur. So in this case, I'm going to say networks, and then I'm going to say it's going to equal, again, the same thing. It's going to be it's going to have a link, which is going to be a string. It's going to have an icon, which is also going to be a string. And there's going to be a list of them. And they're going to equal sticky key. Actually, I'm going to pass in the component will load. When the component's about to load, we're going to say this.networks equals. So I'm going to manually pass this in. Again, probably going to eventually come from an API or something like that. And that way we can go about just having this stuff put in without us having to do a whole bunch of extra work. Okay, cool. So I'm going to need my list of networks. So my first link is for Twitter. So twitter.com/MadnessLabs. Icon, logo, Twitter. And we're going to do that same thing for each one of these guys. Cool. GitHub, YouTube, Facebook. Luckily, we are consistently named across the board. Okay, cool. So now I've got my networks, and now inside of my footer component, since I'm accepting a prop for networks, I just need to pass in the list of networks, this.networks. I need to pass that list of networks in under networks. So I'm going to do that, and then I can delete all my extra A tags here, and we should be good to go with that. Cool. So now you can see we have the exact same result as we had before, except now we're passing that data into a prop called networks. and we're passing in that list of data, and then it's going to loop over that and then put those into our A tag and then our icon tag. So sweet. So now let's go ahead and write the remainder of the styles here just to get these styled up a little bit. And then I will actually dive into how to write tests. So writing tests is an essential part of new development. So a lot of developers don't write tests. I actually am guilty. I'm guilty up until the stencil of not writing tests. And the importance of them is just to make sure that you can sleep at night. So like if you've written code, you'll know that like when you get into bigger and bigger projects, or you build something that's like one of these huge archaic systems, that things often tend to be linked together very, very in crazy ways. So there's tons and tons of connections, and so you make a change over here. It's that old saying, you close a door and open a window. And so a lot of times these tests, by writing them, you can then catch these mistakes before they get compiled out, before you ship them off to the server, and before your users experience them. So it's going to help you be able to sleep safe at night, and it's going to help your clients not get mad at you. It's going to help all across the board. And even if something goes wrong, you'll have a lot better sense of where that's happening and why it might be occurring. So it's super important. So I'm gonna run through how to write one of those on our footer here. But first, let me just write the rest of these styles. So we have maybe to add a height on our SVG of 35 pixels. Let's get it just a little bit more in the center. Cool. So now I got our icon sitting in the center. Looks good. Let's go ahead and give it the path. No, actually no, fill. And we want to fill them with the color that she has given us here. Fill and stroke, just in case there is one. Go ahead and give it the same stroke. Sweetness. Awesome sauce. So now we've got these in here. So let's write a test to make sure that we're getting the actual the network data that we need. So obviously, if we have no networks being passed into that prop, we probably need it to air out. So like we wouldn't want a blank, we wouldn't want a blank social icon, or social icons in our footer. So let's go ahead and write a quick test here. So what's great is our command line tool, as well as like most stencil projects, when you download them and get started, they come with spec files, and these spec files are the tests. And our command line tool automatically makes them for you as well. So in a future video, I'll probably do one that actually shows the command line tool. You can use it to actually like create props automatically out of the box, and then it'll write the generic tests for each prop for you. So again, hopefully this is already, like, most of it's already there. So you can see here inside of our spec for our footer, we have a describe madness footer, and then it should build, and then we have the expect madness footer to be truthy, and that just basically says, hey, this component can build, there's no errors. Then we have to describe the rendering. So before each element, render madness component. So this basically just sets up for the element to be rendered, and then it should work without any parameters. So we should have it saying something like your new madness footer component when there is no components. However, we've actually updated ours. That was what the component said originally, and so when we run our tests, it should error out right off the bat. So let's go ahead and jump in and let's kill our build. And what we're going to do is we're going to jump into our package.json. And what we're going to do is right here you can see that there is a test and then a test.watch command. So these commands are going to run jest, which is a JavaScript test suite. And these are going to run and read all these specs and then run them through and then give us like a checkbox or a list of checks and X's on what checks out and what is broken. And that way we can actually write, we can fix our code or fix the tests in order to make them check out. And this is super important. Again, Something that I haven't done a whole lot of over the years, just because, again, like I came from a background of like writing websites back when you had to have table layouts and pictures for rounded corners. So testing wasn't really a big thing back then, but it's super important nowadays. A lot of people have adopted TDD, test-driven development, where they write the test first so that they make sure they clearly thought out what they want to do before they go and do it. And that's a valid way to handle it. I generally tend to focus more on just testing things that are very vital, essential for the process. And everything else I kind of leave without tests. But the older I get and the more I get into these things, the more crucial I realize they really are. So I'm going to go ahead and run the test command. So we're going to run npm run test.watch. And so the difference between test and test.watch is test is just going to run the set of tests once, but the test watch is actually going to watch over all your files, and as you make changes, it will actually it'll actually recompile and then run the tests again. So as you can see here, I have 2 failed and then 1 passed out of 3 total, and then we have 2 failed, 3 passed out of 5 total. So you can see here that they say, okay, Madness footer, when I was rendering, it should work without parameters. Well, we can't read text content of undefined. So you can see there that right off the bat, as I said, our Madness footer has been changed. It now gives us a list of items. It doesn't give us a text return like we had before. So I need to jump into my spec file here, and I need to actually go about changing this test here so that it passes. So what I want to do is, and as always, links in the description if you want to learn a little bit more about Stencil and how to write tests. If you head on over to their website, they've got a unit testing page where they give you all the details about this stuff. So I'm not making it up. It's there, and you can actually jump over and they show you how to render your components. They flush the elements, and what I'm going to need is this right here. So you can see each element, it should work with first and last. So in this case, they had the default out of the box component that comes inside of most Stencil apps has a first and a last name that they pass in as props to show you how it works. So we want that same thing. We need to check, let's check it, and we need to say should have a list of networks. And then what we're going to do is the second argument is an async function that's going to have all of this content. So I'm just going to copy this out of here. Okay, so we need element networks. I might be doing this wrong. Okay. Again, like I said, I don't write a ton of tests, so this is a little bit new to me as well. So again, hopefully I get to learn as much on these things as you guys do. So again, on their website, according to the documentation, we're probably going to need to do a query selector to make sure that each one of these, we need to make sure that the number of elements is greater than 0. So we need to say maybe, so in this case, let's go ahead and pass in a list of I'm going about this all wrong. you know what, instead of me figuring this stuff out, I'm going to do a little bit more reading so I can write some more elaborate tests. Because again, I've done some basic ones, but this one's a little bit more in depth, checking for a list and then making sure it actually checks for each one of these. And actually, I'm actually going over my time now. So rather than me sitting here trying to fumble around with this, I'm going to do a little bit more research and get a little bit more versed in writing elaborate tests. And we'll cover that first thing on next Madness Cast. So hopefully this was helpful. Again, this was a little bit more on the side of styling and doing stuff like that. We did set up one component, the footer, and I also showed a little bit about how we use Adobe XD to kind of start out with a design and then move into making the actual components. And now you can see that we actually have a home page with some links on it. So we've got somewhere, but yeah, again, next week I'm going to try to have a little bit more of a game plan fleshed out, and then we're going to move a little bit quicker and get into some deeper subjects like testing, as well as we're going to scale up all the rest of our pages and probably going to start to actually like query WordPress to get back the latest blog post, as well as maybe list our list of blog posts, stuff like that. So tune in next week where we're going to do that. And then in the meantime, if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. You can get to us on Twitter at Madness Labs. So feel free to follow us on there. Ask us any kind of questions, prompt us for things you'd like us to go through on one of these Madness Casts. You can check out our YouTube channel, Madness Labs, youtube.com/Madness Labs. We've got a stencil playlist on there. So if you're looking for the nitty gritty of stencil without watching me do a bunch of styling and different stuff like that, check out our StencilJS playlist. We've got some different stuff on there on how to get started, as well as an explanation of what state is, what props are. And on last cast, we went over a lot of that base knowledge. So this was a lot more about just kind of getting in there, starting to build. And then, as always, support us on Patreon so that we can keep scaling these resources, keep getting better, maybe get some scripting in on this stuff, get some better, more production quality. But thanks for watching, guys. Really appreciate it. As always, I've been Bobby, and Emily, come say hello to the fine people on YouTube. So,
hello, thank you.
And we will catch you all next time.
Peace.